Hello, everyone, and welcome to the StudentArtPodcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter, and today is episode 90 of the series. The StudentArtPodcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests from the film and game industries to talk about their journey and thoughts on education. Today on the show, we've got amazing guests for you. We have Andy Driver from Grads and Games. Andy, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
As always, folks, we're going to be diving into Andy's journey. You name it, we're going to be talking about everything employment. So we've got the best man on to talk about it. And make sure to check out all the links. We'll be diving into them today. So, Andy, just tell us a wee bit about yourself, and we'll take it from there, man.
Sure. My name's Andy Driver. I'm the operations manager for Grads and Games. That's a very fancy title for someone who basically does a hell of a lot of admin.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, Grads and Games is a organization run by Aardvark Swift, who are a recruitment agency specialized in the video games industry. And we run educational initiatives which help students become more employable for the games industry. My job is to basically run all of the operations for that, as well as running the graduate recruitment team as well.
So, just out of the blue, just wanted to ask, like, what got you into this as a career? Was this always something that you wanted to do, or was when did this kind of come about?
It was. So I've been in recruitment for 6 years now, and I've been in kind of wider tech recruitment.
Right.
So not necessarily in games, but more in data and analytics and sort of wider tech stuff. And then I relocated up to Sheffield, which is where I am now, and ended up speaking to Aardvark Swift. They told me about Grads and Games and the whole initiative of it, and I've always been really keen to work with, I suppose, younger people and work with students and work on more of that side of things.
Yeah.
They told me about everything that they do, and I was basically fully bought in.
Yeah.
And said, yeah, I'm keen to be involved in that. So and luckily ended up getting the job.
That's great. Awesome. It's crazy. Out of all the episodes I've done so far, I don't know why I've never brought on a recruiter. Like, you're like the perfect candidate. So when you reached out to me, I was so excited. I was like, yes, we could finally dive into the main area, the area for years I've not been able to talk about in so much depth. But as I was saying to Andy before we kind of went everything live, etc. So like I said, today's main topic is employment. So Andy, we're going to be diving into like CVs, his experience on portfolios and communication as well, and we'll also talk about events, etc., like search for a star, rising star, you name it, all these incredible things that Grads and Games have been bringing to us over the last few years, etc. So we'll just start off with the main one, I guess. We'll start off with portfolio and your thoughts on portfolio for artists. So I guess the big question, first things first, do you think it's better to be like a generalist or a specialist when it comes to just artists in general? Like, where should people begin? I know it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Straight off the bat, the hard one on the spot.
The key thing to remember at a graduate level, but this is obviously changes once you've had a few years in the industry. But a key thing at a graduate level is that the overarching thing is that it's really hard to get a job in the industry. It's not easy. You are competing with thousands of others who want those jobs. Now, what that means is that you may have to show that you can do quite a lot. So what I mean by that is that we would always recommend a student or a graduate to show quite a range of different skills and styles on their portfolio. By all means, you can have a specialism. So if you're really good at kind of hard surfaces, for example, and you go, yeah, I'm really good at that. I do some great cars or something. Do you know what I mean? And you can have that as a focus. But what you also want to have is then also some more stylized stuff, maybe a character, maybe even some kind of other kind of concept stuff or life drawing or some other stuff. But you want to show a range of other stuff because while a studio may have a focus in terms of the game that they're working on right there and then, in terms of, right, okay, we're working on a car game, we want someone who can do cars. They actually actually when a junior comes on board, you'll probably be quite generalist in your job from the
Yep.
start. You'll probably do quite a range of different stuff. Then you might specialize further on down your career.
Yeah.
So being able to show that, yeah, I'm really good at doing this, but I can also do this, this, and this, and this, just makes you more employable and will help you get a job.
Yep.
Rather than, there are people who will specialize, from the start and will say, yeah, I only do cars and this is all I do and this is what I'm really good at, and they might get a job doing that, and that's great. But actually, their options are limited compared to someone who's generalized a little bit more.
Yeah. Like it's always been a difficult question over the years, like, especially when I was in university. I was always trying to figure out, do I just go straight on, focus on environment art and just specialize on trying to master my craft and focus on AAA, because at the time that was my focus. And at the end of the day, like what you're saying there, I completely agree. And like my perspective always been like, obviously, like you want to be the best you can be at a particular area, and like I said, environment art was my main focus. However, there's through my experiences when I've started off jobs, etc., because of that maybe lack of range at the time, I've maybe kind of been behind the curve in terms of what they're looking for, and it's through that experience obviously I've learned to adapt and evolve from that. But thanks for answering that, because I know that's a big one to kind of kick things off.
Yeah,
But it's
it comes down to what you were saying just there in terms of studios when they hire someone at a junior level.
mhm,
They want people who are adaptable and they want people that they can invest in and grow. And if you can show that you're adaptable and you're willing to give other things a go that are maybe outside of your comfort zone and you're
mhm,
not just entirely focused on one thing, then that's a good aspect for them, and that seems like someone that they can invest in for
yeah,
the future, which is
perfect.
what they want to do.
Awesome, loving it. So, carrying on this topic of portfolios, etc. We'll start off with the positives. So, what's like the main things I guess you want to see in portfolios? I guess we could start off with environment art. I think it might be a good, easy way to
Yeah,
kind of break things down. Like, is there anything that kind of stands out to you, even just if it's layout, etc.? Like, how
I
do you
mean,
go about it?
the basics are really so many people get the basics wrong.
Hmm.
The basics has got to be, yeah, good layout, easy just to see, easy to digest. So many people kind of forget about that,
Hmm.
and you just this is why we always suggest people to use ArtStation, because
Yeah.
ArtStation is kind of almost the industry standard nowadays, and it's
Hmm.
the reason being it's just because it's uniformed and easy for people to read and easy for people to move around, and people know how to use it.
Yeah.
When you can go and create your own portfolio on your own website, but then it's made sometimes there are good ones, but sometimes people make it and it's just too complicated.
Yeah.
So having that basic layout, having different. So if you are going to be generalist and have a few different types of art on your portfolio, um, having that sectioned off is always good.
Hmm.
So having, these are my environments, these are my characters, these are my props, these are my so on and so forth, and have them almost in kind of subfolders, if you will,
Yeah.
is another easy way to look through. But having really clear, detailed explanations of each piece
Yeah.
is really important. That's where maybe some people miss out. So studios will, if they look at something, they'll go, yeah, that looks nice, but they'll want to know, okay, actually, what tools did you use to make this? Did you do all of it? First of all, is it
Hmm.
a team project, or did you only do that one little piece of it?
Yeah.
Or is it a team project? And they want to know time frames. That's the big one that most people miss off.
That's it.
Um,
Oh, I didn't expect that one. That's an interesting one. Right. Okay. I didn't see that coming.
a lot of people miss off time frames.
Hmm.
You may have an amazing piece that looks great, but if it took you a year to do it,
Yeah.
then studios are all about efficiency.
Yeah. Of
you
course.
know, that's no good.
Yep.
So they want to know: did it take you a month? Did it take 2 months? Did it take you a week?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Definitely.
Um, Putting that detail on will really help.
So
I think.
would are you saying, so basically, so everyone who's tuning in for like ArtStation, etc., just say like literally just nice and simple, just like maybe like a month, maybe 3 weeks per asset or something, or like just break it down nice and simple.
Yeah, I mean, you can just put it on the description for each piece.
Yeah.
You have a kind of short description next to each piece, don't you?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
you can say this took me whatever 1 month or whatever it was. But that kind of thing can be a really important detail that a lot of people miss out.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because when you said there about like the time frame, like for example, like the main project that got me into the industry took me 6.5 months.
Yeah.
But once again, that then tailors back to, though, it's like you said, efficiency. At the end of the day, it's the maker or breaker. At the end of the day, it's all about getting the job done. And that's one thing I'll admit, starting off, was speed was my biggest weakness. Like and I'm pretty sure it's many, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why art tests will be very common because
Yeah.
even though you may have a portfolio which has got all of the right stuff they want to see on
Mm-hmm.
it, um, actually, if they're like, okay, yeah, we know that they could do this piece of work, but actually, let's give them a brief and see if they, because most of them are timed for a
Yeah.
week or a month or whatever. So they want to give you something timed to see how you work to a pipeline and a process,
Yeah.
because that's the kind of thing that's important to them.
That's great. So, carrying on this theme, so you mentioned there like ease of use.
Mm.
So, when it comes to making things accessible, there was one thing that I was actually talking about on Twitter the other day, and that's, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree when it comes to links, etc. But one of the things to me is there's so many social media platforms getting used, and I always say to everyone, use the same name on everything, just so nothing can get difficult for people to kind of check it out, etc. When it comes to, like you said about websites, making it nice and accessible, is there any common mistakes, like alongside links, that's been an issue for you when you've like checked portfolios out over the past?
Yeah, I mean, being consistent, as you said, is good. So having the same username for each thing, just so you've got that, so people know it's the same person.
Yeah.
But if you're using ArtStation, I always come back to
No, no,
ArtStation.
that makes sense.
Kind of what to
Perfect.
do. ArtStation's okay because ArtStation is www.artstation.com/ whatever your name is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start then delving into creating your own website, and you can create ones for free using like Wix or WordPress or Weebly or something like that, and that's fine. You can come up with some good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe then what's better is to invest in maybe purchasing your own domain.
Yeah.
So instead of having mine as andydriver.weebly.com,
Mm-hmm.
maybe investing in having andydriver.com.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah, it just looks neater, looks clearer. It's not a huge issue, but you just want something that's easy to be able to post, easy to share, easy to be people to be able to use. The only other thing I'd say, and one thing that we have seen as well, is that people might use like Google Drive, for example, as a
Right. Instead.
portfolio.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That happens sometimes, where instead of creating a portfolio, they will basically just have a folder with some artwork in it.
Yeah.
That that very rarely just gets seen
Okay.
because once again, it's all about the presentation, all about the layout.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
The people at studios have got possibly hundreds of portfolios to look through. So they want to make one click, go on the portfolio, see a kind of overview of everything you've got, and then if they see something interesting, they can have a look at it a bit further. But
Yeah.
if it's a link to a Google Drive where you've then just got a list of stuff, and you've got to click through and go in and back, you're just adding extra steps and barriers
Yeah.
to getting your stuff seen.
That's great. No, because one of the things that kind of terrified me, I'm glad I got taught this at uni. I really hope people are saying this, was because, do you know that basically, so your portfolio doesn't get sent to basically artists straight away. It goes to like the kind of admin and like HR kind of team. Can you kind of just dive into the importance of that part?
Yeah, and this is the same for CVs as well. When we come on to that later,
Yeah.
it's really important. What you have to remember is that at a studio, it's very unlikely that it's going to be the art manager or a senior artist or someone who's the first person that sees your application.
Yeah.
It's likely going to be seen by someone like me,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, a recruiter. So if you're going through a third party recruiter like we are, then obviously we would work with you to get it sorted, but we'd be looking at it before we sent it to the client.
Yeah.
But then when we send it to the client, you're then going to have their internal recruitment team or HR team or at their admin team,
Mm-hmm.
who will then filter people through and then send them forward on to the hiring manager.
Yeah.
The one thing, as we said before, is that studios will get hundreds of applications
It's crazy.
for
Yeah.
for a graduate role, if they put a graduate artist role up, they will get hundreds.
Yep.
And what there has to be filtering that way, because otherwise they wouldn't have time to do it, and no one would ever get any feedback. No one would ever get hired.
Yep.
So yeah, the first person who sees it may not be someone who fully understands the intricacies of art, but they'll be given some sort of guideline as to, okay, look for something that's got this, or look for people who have got this particular tool on their CV, or there'll be some sort of step depending on the studio, that someone who is not as qualified as an artist, but someone who's more of recruitment focused will be looking for. So therefore, if they get in that batch of hundreds, if they get through and if there's a link that just doesn't work for whatever reason, it's broken, the site is down, whatever, they haven't got time to come back and say, oh, actually, your portfolio doesn't work. Do you mind fixing it and sending it back to me? Because they might have another 300 more that they need to look through. So it just gets put on the no pile. And that's it.
Sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, oh gosh, you said something so important there that I'm pretty sure you've probably get messages like 1,000 times, like literally all the time. And it's the people always wonder, wait, they never got back to me. Or they're curious to, like, why have they not? Is it because my portfolio was not the best? But you just nailed it there. It's as simple as it is. It's just getting so many submissions over the years, and like you said, sometimes it could be a really short period of time, and they're looking for somebody straight away, and they don't have that time to be. I know it sounds harsh at times, but it's just the reality of things.
Yeah, it is harsh, and I can fully sympathise that it's not fair, and that everyone wants feedback. Feedback's hugely important,
of course.
And it's different when you work with a recruitment agency, because it's in our interest to talk to you anyway, even if you're no good for that role that you've applied for. We might have something else for you, so that's always important for us. But for a studio, for an end client, they will get so much traffic, they just simply don't have time to go through and say, yeah, you weren't right because of XYZ, and you weren't right because of ABC. It's just not possible. So unfortunately, at that stage, it's very unlikely you'll get anything specific.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to just recruitment as a whole, what's your thoughts of? So I know I do this. I've done this many times. So I obviously talk to people 24/7, and you do as well. And like reaching out to people, I had a habit of make sure to reach out to artists. But what's your thoughts on artists reaching out to recruiters? Do you think that should be a thing we should be doing a lot, just to figure out the ins and outs, or do you think it's better to go straight to the artist?
I would do both. To be honest, what you'll find is that you may reach out to an artist at a studio, and try and get in a chat with them. But then when it starts becoming maybe more formalized and going, actually, I want to apply for a job with you, you'll get passed to the recruitment team. You'll get passed to them anyway. So I would probably there's not one hard and fast rule in terms of do this or do that. You probably have to do a bit of both and kind of read stuff, but connecting and speaking with other artists, especially for students, the whole networking side of that is so important. It's so important to be able to be doing that. Connecting with people on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on wherever. Making sure that you're engaging with their stuff, sharing your stuff as well. It will help you get noticed in the long run, because, say, for example, you've been connected to an art manager, and do you know what I mean? You've been liking, commenting on some of the stuff that they put. You've been maybe putting some screenshots up of saying, "Oh, this is what I've been working on recently." And then your portfolio comes in on a list of in the batch of 300 that he's got for a graduate artist role. They'll go, they may be going through pretty quickly and going, yeah, that's a no, that's a no. Oh, wait, I recognise this one. I remember that. Yeah, no, they're interesting. Yeah, and you might get 5 more seconds of a look than you would usually, and they might get you on the maybe pile, and then so on and so forth. So it's hugely important, but definitely do both, because the recruitment team are the ones who will actually know if they're going to hire or not. A lot of the time, artists themselves and studios may not actually know what hiring plans are really like. unless they're very high up the chain.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's do both.
Thanks for diving into that, because this is one thing that speaking of like networking, because networking to me, like you said, it was actually my last podcast. I was like talking all about it and the art of conversation, how big an impact it is. I understand, yes. The way I like to see things is it's like kind of 90% art and then 10% like everything else. But then again, it kind of varies depending. Like at the end of the day, if you can't network, you're kind of setting yourself up for a difficult path. And there's one thing I wanted to like praise you on, and it's very rare in terms of people's approach, is how you message people in terms of reaching out to people. So when you reached out to me, it was like I had so much respect for it, because it was the way you came across, and this is what I think so many people could learn from. Is it's kind of that kind of healthy balance of providing like support for the person you're reaching out to, and then also kind of like being able to back yourself up. It's like that kind of healthy relationship, because it goes hand in hand, like going back and forth. And I think when it comes to communication, it's being able to understand like how to kind of message somebody. Like, what's your thoughts on kind of starting that conversation, or at least trying to get something rolling, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think networking has changed compared to where it was, say, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where 20 years ago, networking would have probably involved going to a big kind of conference or expo or some sort, and walking around and talking to people, and that still happens, obviously. Not this year, but it will happen again.
Completely agree. Yeah, a lot of things going on at the moment.
Yeah, but it will happen again, and you will do that. But the whole networking thing isn't confined to just those events anymore. Now in the age of social media, it's about building a brand. This is the important thing. It's about building a brand for yourself. So if you have a profile on LinkedIn, or if you have an account on Twitter, and for me as a recruiter, for example, if on LinkedIn, if all I did all day, every day, was just post about jobs, even though as a recruiter, that's what my main job is to get people into jobs. But all I did was advertise saying, "Hey, I've got a job going for this. Anyone want one? I've got a job going for this. Anyone want one?" No one would really be engaged. It'd be pretty boring. I'm not actually engaging in the community that I want to engage in. Whereas actually, posting stuff which is interesting to the people that you want to work with, engaging with their stuff as well, is hugely important. So as I said, for any student artists or graduate artists, you want to connect in with people that you want to work with. That's the whole point.
Yeah, of course.
Connect with people you want to work with at the places you want to work. And look what they're doing. And when they post something about, this is the game we've just released. You want to be looking at it, reading it, engaging with it, or even if it's maybe it's a cultural thing at the studio. A lot of studios will post. We just had a team social of some sort, or we just did a Zoom quiz or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
So then what you might be able to do is, as you're engaging and sort of taking in all this content and all this stuff and learning about the industry, because that's different to learning about how to do art, learning about what the industry is, and learning about the studios. Then when you're connecting with people, it's then more of an easy thing going, "Hey, thanks for connecting. I've seen the stuff. I saw the game that you released last week. It looks really cool from the demo. I can't wait to have a play with it." I saw that you guys were doing this Zoom quiz the other week. How'd you get on? And it opens up a conversation, shows that you're interested in the company. And then also gets you noticed as well, because then there'll be more, as you said, you'll be more interested in coming back to them, as you were more interested in coming back to me. And then they'll be more interested in what you're offering, which for a student or a graduate is, actually, I'm an artist. This is what I do, and actually, I'm also looking for a job.
This is going crazy. I'm loving this. Right? Okay. Prepare yourself, folks. This is just like, we're just warming up as well. This is going to get even better. I can just feel it. Because when it comes to like just the word or the world of networking and social media, like we all know, like social media is crazy. You said something really important there, because I used to fall into this trap all the time. So when I was originally in the first like kind of probably, believe it or not, first 40 episodes of podcasts, like I had it all wrong in terms of marketing, in terms of advertising. Like I was just saying, like subscribe here, do this, rather than here's the service, like you said, like this is what I can provide, this is how I can help you out, and if not, here's somebody I can maybe send you to, if you know what I mean. And it's that, it's like you said, like when it comes to LinkedIn, it's make sure you come across the right way, and it's the same thing with messaging. Just finishing off this kind of conversation on messaging, is there anything that's maybe, when it comes to people reaching out to you, that they've maybe made the mistake, or is there any advice you would give in terms of actually like the talking side of things?
Not sure. I mean, people reach out with basics, spelling, grammar, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And kind of while I'm not super professional. I'm not, I don't think anyone in the games industry will go into work every day in a suit and tie and be all formal and like you work in a bank or something. You still need to be. This is what I'm talking about. Building your brand, you need to show that actually, I'm a professional artist. This is, I'm good. I'm not a a kid who does a bit of art on the side, and I'm still developing. I'm a mature adult, and this is what I want to do. So when you reach out, it needs to be in that way. It needs to be, hi Andy, keen to get in touch. My CV's attached. I'm looking for a job here. It's that kind of way, as opposed to some people. I mean, I get emails through where it's just a CV attached and no message whatsoever.
Wait, really? What? Okay, I did not expect you to say that. Fair enough.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
That's a bold move. That, I'll tell you that.
Here's my CV. Call me if you want. All right, thanks.
Here's the mystery. Identify the puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I did not expect that one. Because it's always like an interesting one, like for me, and this is another great thing having you on, because I know you like your sport. I know you're a rugby man yourself, and sport's always been my thing. And I've always wondered, like, how's the best way for universities to kind of prepare students in a way to kind of get them more involved. And to me, it's always been the kind of things that I do on the outside, if you know what I mean, that's kind of developed me. Like I know you do. Is it rugby coaching or refereeing or something that you do?
I mean, I've been coaching rugby for too long.
Awesome.
13 years or so, 14
Perfect.
years like that. I do that on the side.
And like, how is I know it's a bit of a random tangent, but I think it's super important to talk about. Like, how is that kind of that side of things, like doing PE in sport? Because I know that's one of the things you studied. Like, how has that impacted your confidence and your ability to network?
Yeah, I think it's all social skills, isn't it? It's very rarely in any kind of job, are companies of not just in the games industry, but in any industry. Mm-hmm. Very rarely are they is anyone gonna hire someone who doesn't have any social skills as such, and is not able to work as a team. In studios, teamwork is hugely important. Culture is hugely important to game studios. Mm-hmm. And that, where people sometimes get mixed up with that, is that when a studio says, "Oh, we have a culture and we're looking for a culture fit," which is the phrase a lot of people use. What some people think is that means we want to hire everyone who's the same. So, if the director went to a certain uni and plays a certain sport and supports a certain football team and does mm-hmm. that, then they'll want to hire people who do exactly the same. That's not what they mean. What they mean is most studios want people who are keen to work together. Making a game is teamwork. You don't do it all yourself.
Of course.
It's about being able to communicate and work with people, but also just basically being nice and being a laugh, and
it goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So anything that you do outside of university, and obviously uni will, you'll obviously do that in classes and in projects and stuff, but doing stuff outside where you're then working with people who maybe are not the same as you mm-hmm. and are doing other stuff, that's going to be hugely important, because you'll do that when you get into a job.
Because it's always like I always feel that the best situation to be in is just make sure you're out of your comfort zone, like forcing yourself or putting yourself in scenarios that you know you're going to evolve. When it comes to like I said, like conversation, getting outside your comfort zone, it's a massive part, and that's the reason why I do my podcast, and it's a great thing having you here. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, when it comes to like university, do you think they should implement like a kind of interview section, as in like have like a year purely just focused on, like, I understand art is like the make or break, but there's so much time to kind of to make art. I feel like the one thing about the university is like and just things in general is like getting that balance right between the art and the actual thing that's going to like get you that job, which is the network, which is the social skills. Like, do you think they should start implementing things more like that? Because I know like there's certain things that they do, like certain modules and that, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's different universities are better at it than others.
Yeah.
Some universities are really on it, and they will have their own careers departments and careers advisors who will come in and give more general skills on how to write a CV and
Mm-hmm.
how to do interviews and to do mock interviews and that kind of thing. Other universities will, where I think is probably best, is they'll engage a lot with industry.
Yeah.
They'll bring industry in to come and do, whether it's mock interviews, whether it's portfolio reviews, whether it's a presentation, whatever it may be. Having that coming and having another voice coming in and talking to people about that. Some will have modules written in, and those, where they'll talk about this kind of thing and they'll bring stuff in. But then there are some unis who they don't focus on that for whatever reason. I don't really know why, but I suppose that's one of the reasons why we do what we do is because I think probably when we started doing this way before my time, 10 years ago, there was a big gap between industry and academia, and there wasn't so much joined up thinking. And that's where Grads and Games came in to kind of try and be the bridge in between. Everything that we do for students in terms of the advice and all the advice and everything we give to students comes directly from industry. We ask industry, what do you want? What do you want to see when you hire graduates? What do you like? What don't you like? And then we pass that information on. And we obviously work with a lot of the industry. We work with a lot of different studios. So rather than one studio coming and saying, actually, this is what we like, this is the kind of things that we like, what we can do is we can tell you, yeah, that's great, they may like that, but there's also 20 other studios who like this instead. We give a kind of more of a general view.
Perfect.
But that's kind of why I suppose Grads and Games was born in the first place, was because there was that gap there and it needed to be filled.
So speaking of this gap and speaking of Grads and Games, so first things first, like how do people get in touch? As simple as that sounds. So like, where's like how do we just make that thing start, if you know what I mean?
Gradsandgames.com. Nice
Perfect.
And simple. That is everything you should need is on there. There is a ton of information about different initiatives we do, about live graduate jobs that we have right now, about all sorts of kind of various advice and news, and we have very tailored advice and templates for CVs and portfolios and that kind of thing on there. So
Perfect.
There's loads of things on there.
So once again, continuous theme. So you guys are very well known for your competitions, etc. So Search for a Star, Rising Star, you name it. You even do your tours as well around Europe. So anyone who's listening and you guys have never heard of this competition, it's a great competition for you guys to take part in. A lot of my friends, when I was back in Abertay, were always talking about this. One of my friends came second. Actually, his name was Aaron Humphreys. About 5 years ago, became second in the character competition. And one of my friends actually, who in fourth year, actually won one of the character competitions as well. So it's a great competition to take part in. Can you kind of talk to us a wee bit about Search for a Star and what you guys do with Rising Star, etc.?
Sure. So Search for a Star and Rising Star are a series of game dev challenges. The whole point overall, before we go into the details of it, the whole point overall is to give students an excuse to make something outside of university. So one of the key things that we say to a lot of artists is you'll have your uni projects, and you'll have briefs and stuff that you'll be working on there. But if you just do that and don't do anything else, all your portfolio is going to look the same because you've all got the same piece of work on it. So actually, you've got to do stuff outside, game jams and that kind of thing. This is an opportunity for you to make something for your portfolio that will hopefully help you get a job. That's the idea. So the way it works, Search for a Star is open to final year and master's students. Rising Star is open to anyone not in final year. So generally first and second year students at uni, or even students at FE level as well.
What? Sorry.
At FE, further education. So college.
Right, okay. Oh yeah, of course. Perfect.
So anyone maybe doing a foundation degree or something along those lines. We actually had one of the finalists this year was from an FE college.
Okay, perfect.
So that's what Rising Star is, and both of those have 5 different categories. So they have programming, they have environment art, character art, animation, and VFX. And the idea is that you get given a brief which has been written by the industry. So we have a number of industry partners who are studios who partner with us. So around this time, so we're just starting these conversations for next year. They get together and they write a brief for a project. So take environment art, for example. They will come up with a full briefing document of this is what we want you to make. But it is fairly broad, and you get given a lot of creative freedom to kind of make it how you want. But there's a few certain things you've got to make. It all has to be brought into a game engine, be game ready, so that all the stuff like topology and that kind of thing is got to be there. So they will, you'll get given a brief. You will then go away, and it's a individual project. It's not a team project. So you will go and build your project, and you'll submit it to us. The registration will usually open around the start of October. And you'll have until the.
I was just about to ask that. I was just waiting for it. I was like, when's it going to come?
Registrations, they'll usually open around the start of October. They'll close just before Christmas, usually like the week before Christmas. And then you'll have until the end of January to actually submit your completed project.
Nice.
So once you've submitted your project, we then have a team of senior people in the industry who will assess every single project. So to give you an idea of numbers, last year we had just over 1,000 people registered.
Right. Wow. Awesome. Congratulations.
Across all of it. It was a good year. That ended up with being, I think, roughly about 250 actual finished projects were submitted at the end of January. We then had a team of around 250 assessors. So these are people working in a studio who are senior or above. So senior artists, lead artists, art directors, creative directors. They will then have a look at every single project. So every single project will get assessed at least 3 times. And we'll give them a grading system to work on. So they'll be looking at stuff and grading it. But then what they'll also do is they will also provide written feedback as well, which is the most important thing. Every piece will then have a score, and it will have at least 3 pieces of written feedback. And the feedback usually is amazing, way more than what you would expect. That some of them will write like a whole side of A4 of, I really like this, but maybe next time you could look at doing this. Not only will they look at the finished piece, they'll look at all your working out as well. So they'll go through like your Maya project files, or they'll go through your concepts and see where they've come from. They'll go through everything for you.
Wow.
It's a big thing.
Of course, it certainly is.
But what happens is you end up getting amazing feedback. You end up having. The idea is you will end up making something which will be good enough to go on your portfolio because it's up to the standard of an industry brief. You've made something that the industry wants, so hopefully that should be something good that will attract people. What happens then is the top 5 from each different category then get invited to our finals day, which was in April. This year it was all online, but usually it's a whole conference day where we have sort of big speakers come in and do talks. But the idea is those 5 will then do panel interviews. So one of the finalists will sit in front of 4 or 5
Mhm.
directors, usually from the partner studios we work with. So a technical director, a creative director, an art director, whatever. And they will do an interview, a mock interview with them,
Mhm.
where they will, talk about their project, talk me through your project, what were you thinking, but then talking more about, other stuff, talk through their whole portfolio, talk through what do they want to do, and basically do a job interview as if
Yeah.
they would. After that's all done, the interviewers will then come together and decide who the overall winner is.
Mhm.
Based on it's based on the strength of the project first of all, based on the strength of their interview, and ultimately the end goal and the deciding factor is, would you hire this person into your art team?
Yeah.
And that's the person who wins.
Yeah.
Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, and that's kind of Search for a Star. So that happens for Search for a Star and Rising Star. The good thing is, as well as making a thing for your portfolio, a piece for your portfolio, a lot of people just end up getting jobs for it
Mhm.
because we do a lot of promotion online with all of our finalists and entrants, and there'll be loads of stuff we'll do. We'll be doing showcases on all over social media. We'll be working with the industry partners and studios we work with.
Mhm.
A lot of people. It's not uncommon to get a job offer after doing your mock interview.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them will come out. A lot of the creative director might come out, for example, and then the next day they'll go, "Oh yeah, do you remember that guy that I did a mock interview with yesterday? Yeah, I'd like to give him a proper interview."
Yeah. Of course.
So that'll happen a lot, and it's a way of raising your profile. It's a way of raising your brand, making something, and hopefully getting you a job is the
Yeah.
end goal.
Thanks for diving into that, because one of the most important things that you said there, and it's what everyone should realize. It's not like, yes, winning is great, but you never know, like you said, what could happen. Like I do the same thing with I did the same thing with the rookies, etc. And like there's all these things that you can apply for and take part. So when you're applying for a Search for a Star and you're getting involved with Rising Star, etc. Yes, I know we all want to win. Like everyone wants to do their best, and it makes sense. It's just common nature. But like Candy said there, it's a chance to get yourself out there and use this as a building block to get exposure. At the end of the day, it's all about networking, like we've discussed today. One of the main things, it's about creating your brand, developing yourself, and you never know, something might happen. Like Andy said, you never know. I was watching they made like a short film on the YouTube channel for Grads and Games, and I will say the bit I loved the most, right, is when the guy when the guy was talking about the mock interview. It was like he kind of like put a wee bit of pressure. He was like a Dragon's Den kind of vibe, but that's one of the things though. It's like we were saying earlier, like kind of getting put on the spot and having like the confidence to kind of just say, you know what, I made this game, I made this art piece, and then having the confidence to talk about it. And I guess one of the questions I think it would be great to talk about when it does. So, if anyone does make it this far, what advice would you give them when it comes to that? Is there anything? I know we've kind of talked about the communication part, but is there any kind of tips you would give them about if they do get that far down the line?
To the interview, you mean?
Yeah, to the interview, to
Yeah.
like the main kind of make or break kind of moment.
Yeah, it's the same advice we give when we work with students who are going for jobs that we're recruiting for.
Yeah.
You know, the there's a few key things to remember, and this is not solely just for students or graduates.
Mhm.
As I said, I used to do recruitment, working with really senior people in the
Yeah.
analytics industry, directors and CEOs and that kind of thing, and I give them exactly the same advice as I give a student.
Yeah.
Research, first of all.
Mhm.
You cannot underestimate how important doing research is.
Yeah.
You will know who the people you're going to be seeing are. So make sure you have a look who they are. Have a look, connect with them on LinkedIn. Have a look at their LinkedIn. Have a look at their Twitter. See what they've done in the past. See what their see you know how see what they do. What
Yeah.
is their job title? Where do they work? Do that research. But then going in and having a real clear, there's obviously the obvious stuff where it's about talking clearly and
Mhm.
kind of making eye contact and being able to talk about what you've done, because that's what they're interested in, is tell me about what you've done.
Yeah.
So being able to explain that fully, and but then also the thing that most people miss out on is not having a list of stuff that you also want to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So any interview nowadays is a two-way thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just interviews. Rarely now are. It's not going to be an interviewer asking you questions and you providing answers, and that's
Yeah.
it. It's not, okay, tell me about this. You tell them about it. All right, next question. It doesn't work like that. It's more of a conversation nowadays.
Of course.
Right. So, and actually, as an interviewee, you want to find out as much about them as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So simple stuff like taking a pen and paper, take a pad, take a pen in, make notes throughout the whole interview of all the stuff that you want to find out beforehand. Plan a load of questions
Mm-hmm.
that you want to know about the company, about the role, about about the studio, everything. Write down a load of stuff, and then throughout the interview, a lot of that will probably be covered in just the conversation you're having.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to tick it off as you go along. But then, what happens at every interview? Every single interview in the history of interviews,
Yeah.
they will always end in the same way, and that will be the interviewer asking, "Have you got any questions for me?"
Yeah.
And if you haven't got anything, if you go, "No, I haven't really thought about it,"
Yeah. It doesn't come across well at all.
that's not good. But actually, even if they've answered everything you want to answer, if you can sit there with your pad and go,
Yeah.
"Well, actually, you already said about this, and you already said about that, and we covered this. Oh, actually, we didn't cover that. What about this?" That kind of, that shows that you're prepared and you're interested and you're taking part and you're as interested in them as they are in you.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, and just, I suppose overall, just relax.
Yeah, you've got to enjoy it. I think people forget that so much. Like, this is an opportunity. You're talking to people who do the same thing as you, if you know what I mean. Like I'm talking to you right now about things that we both have a passion for, and it makes it nice and easy. It's the same with interviews. Like, it's so much people who, I understand that people want jobs and that, but even if you're not successful, it's not like the end of everything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think some people get really nervous and really kind of build up tension for an interview.
Yeah.
One thing that you've always got to remember is that likelihood is the person who's interviewing you is probably quite a well-paid person in the company. They're probably fairly senior, so they're probably quite well paid. Now, don't let that put you off by thinking that you're going to be wasting their time.
Yeah.
Actually, they've decided that it's worth if you look down at their hourly rate is probably more than the vast majority of the other employees. Now, they've decided that for that 1 or 2 hours, they're going to use that to interview you. Now, they would not do that if it wasn't worth their time. They would not do it if they didn't think that you were going to be good enough. They would not do that. So actually, they want you to pass. They want you to achieve.
Yeah.
They want you to do well, because if they did, if you come in and you're absolutely terrible and awful and not got nothing to do with the job, that's a lot of money they've just wasted over the last 2 hours where they could be doing something else. So actually, they want you to come in so that way they can go, yeah, okay, we spent this time doing this, but look at what we got out of it. We got an amazing person. So they're not trying to catch you out. No one's ever trying to catch you out. They're not trying to make you fall down. They're not trying to make you slip up. They want you to do well. That I always go in with that mindset.
Yeah, awesome. Now, thanks for diving into that, because another thing as well, I think the only time that I've only got it maybe once, but I do interviews basically for a living, so it's a wee bit easier. But the one thing I always find interesting is please disagree with me if you think it's changed a lot. But it's sometimes they'll throw a very weird question at you. So for example, I was saying to you at the start, every time I do this podcast, I have a random section at the podcast. I talk about favorite films, games, you name it, just random questions. And what's your thoughts on that? Do you think sometimes people should kind of prepare for that? Because I always like to say just do it naturally and just be yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I'm guessing talking about the questions where it's like, if you were an animal, what animal would you be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can't prepare for that. There is no right or wrong answer. They're not looking for someone who says, "Oh yeah, I would be a penguin."
I would be a penguin.
You know what I mean? They're not looking for that. What they're looking for, what those kind of questions are testing is how you think on your feet.
Yeah.
It's actually what's your process? How can you think on your feet?
Yeah.
Can you just make something up? And
Yeah.
probably in an art perspective, probably can you be creative?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, art is a creative role. They're looking for someone who can be pretty creative with stuff, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily just with actually making a piece of art, just being a creative person. So if you
Yeah.
can go, yeah, I'd be this because of that, then that's showing that you've probably got some of the soft skills and some of the thinking that they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking on this note, so why would you be a penguin? I'll put you on the spot now.
Because I look good in a tuxedo.
Awesome, great answer. See, perfect. What an answer. That's the best one you can go with.
There you go.
Nailed it. Instant hired. Got the job straight away. It's a pleasure to have you. Join the podcast. You can be my co-host. Awesome. Right. This is a section that I'm pretty sure everyone's been wanting to hear about. We're talking about CVs, people. So, so when it comes to CVs, I guess we'll start off with the obvious one, and then we'll just start with like pros and cons. So, like, what is the main thing? Like, what makes a successful CV in your eyes?
Layout again,
Mm-hmm.
easy to read, easy to digest, easy to be able to see the key points that someone would want to see, and in sort of specific to the games industry is showing your interest in games,
Yeah.
showing your interest in game development. That those are the real kind of big kind of important things, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
The layout is super important. People get this wrong a lot, and part of what we do at Grads and Games is we work with students to create CVs. A lot of our process will be a student will get in touch with us,
Mm-hmm.
interested in working in the games industry, and then we'll work with them. They'll send a CV, we'll come back and say, actually, we want you to change this. We think you should do this, and we'll work with them to get the CV ready before we send it out to anyone.
Yeah.
But really, the most important thing, first of all, so if you're going to go for a format as such, first of all, most important thing at the top, make sure you get your portfolio link.
Yep.
I cannot stress this enough. Don't mix it in with a load of contact details. So don't have email address and portfolio link and address and Skype and phone number and stuff. Don't have it all in a block.
Mm-hmm.
Have your portfolio link front and center, right at the top. Your name in big letters, your portfolio link in slightly smaller letters underneath.
Yep.
That, for an artist, that is the most important thing that people will look at.
Okay.
That's the first thing they'll look at, because if they look at your portfolio and they think that they don't think that any of it's good, they probably won't bother reading through your CV anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So make it easy for people to see.
Yeah.
Then what I would suggest is having a kind of short profile piece.
All right. Okay.
So you want to get across some personality as well.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kind of get across almost like a mission statement. So when I say short, I'm literally talking 2 or 3 sentences max.
Yep.
This should not be big at all, but it should be just a quick intro. Hi, my name's Andy. I studied game art here. My goal is to get a job in the games industry. I'm really passionate about this. And I'm hoping, something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
Who you are, what you want to do, why you're applying for whatever job you're applying for.
Mm-hmm.
I would then include key technical skills in a very
nice
bullet pointed list. So what I mean by this is just the kind of software and tools that you've used.
Mm-hmm.
The thing where most people, there's a couple of things actually where people kind of slip up on this.
Right.
One, they'll mix in loads of soft skills in with the technical skills.
Yep.
So, for example, they might have Maya, Blender, communication skills.
Okay.
Don't mix that up. Keep it purely to technical skills. I'll come on to soft skills in a minute, but
definitely.
keep it purely on technical skills. The other thing, which I know a lot of people hate, a lot of recruiters hate, a lot of hiring managers hate, is having some sort of ranking system next to the different tools that you've used.
Yeah, interesting. So, nice. Right, okay.
I've seen countless ones, whether it be stars, whether it be smiley faces, some sort of bar with a percentage.
I would never do that. That would terrify me, because then that's like putting yourself in the worst situation, because then you're saying this is what I'm not good at.
Well, that's exactly it,
So I
and
would like that at all.
that's the main thing. It's you might put I'm 3 stars out of 5 on this, and I'm 4 stars out of 5
Yeah,
on that. One, all it does is tell us what you can't do very well.
yeah,
You're good on this, but why can't you do that? And two, who are you ranking yourself against?
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
where do you
true,
come up with it?
exactly. Yeah,
Like, where the hell do you come up with that?
yeah,
It's because, especially as a student, you may think that you're really particularly good at one piece
yeah,
of software, one tool, but actually, when you get into a studio, you might very quickly realize that you're not,
yeah.
because people there have been using it a lot longer than you have.
Of course.
It's you've got nothing to compare it against.
Yeah.
So just don't do it. Just put a list of what you can use.
Wait,
Don't put any kind of experience whatsoever.
so is that been something that you've seen over the years that's been very common? Because
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? Because that feels like, are they being taught that at university?
I have no idea. I think it's maybe something that I think it's maybe like a hangover or something that was around years ago.
Right.
Where people used to have to rate their skills. I don't know, but for my whole recruitment career, that's been a thing.
Right.
And for my whole recruitment career, I've been like, just get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to know, that how that you're good on that you're X amount of stars on this or whatever.
Yeah.
Just especially even more so at a junior level, because what you've got to remember is studios are not expecting you to be a finished article.
Mm-hmm.
No one's expecting that. They're not expecting you to know how to use everything. As long as you've had some exposure to stuff, the whole point of you coming in as a graduate is they're going to teach you. You're going to learn. So don't worry about it. Just put what you've had experience using, even if it's only a little bit. And then if a particular tool is really important for a particular studio,
Mm-hmm.
They'll ask about it. They'll come in and go, "Oh yeah, I see that you've put that you can use this on your CV. Can you tell us how much, what you've done with it? That kind of thing." They'll ask.
Yeah.
But most of them, because it's quite generalist, as we said before, and because they're not expecting you to be an expert, they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, you've touched on some of this stuff. That's good."
Yeah.
I
was just going to say, like, one of the things. This was actually a trap I fall into a few years back, and so as always when I'm doing CVs or things I've done in the past, you always want to be honest and be straight to the point and make sure that you can back it up. And I didn't do a ranking system, but I put in lots of softwares, but I put in a software that I haven't used in a long time, so I did not remember it. So when it did come to the job at the time, obviously I forgot, so I had to start again from scratch. So the one thing I'm kind of talking about here is make sure that you're kind of up to date in terms of that, right, this is exactly what I remember up to date, because that was kind of like a thing that kind of put like almost like a thing on my shoulders, if you know what I mean, because it was kind of a mistake because I haven't used it in a long time.
Yeah, your CV and your portfolio needs to be a reflection of exactly who you are right now.
Yeah.
So if you used something years ago and you haven't used it, and actually, if you're being honest with yourself and you can't remember how to use it, and you'd have to learn it completely again, then don't put it on.
Yeah, of course.
It's the same thing with portfolios, in that we tell people don't need to include every piece of art you've ever done.
Yeah.
Having more stuff on your portfolio doesn't necessarily make a better portfolio.
Yeah.
Because if you put something on there that maybe you did in first year, if you're a final year student, you put something on first year and you look back at it now and you go, "Oh yeah, no, that's pretty crap. That's nothing compared to what I can do now."
Yeah.
Just don't include it, because it's not an accurate representation of who you are right now as an artist.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, like that's one of the things. I know we're still talking about CVs, but I do. This is a super important thing that you've raised. Like especially like you need to know what quality is. Like quality is everything when it comes to portfolio, and you can't try and like think, oh, having 50 portfolio pieces is going to be great. It never benefits anyone, because like you said, they judge you by your weakest piece. Like they always do.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you want to elaborate anything more on that, but that's always been something that I completely agree with.
The likelihood is that you might put 50 pieces on there, but there's an incredibly strong likelihood that someone's not going to look at all 50 pieces.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. Yeah, completely agree.
They'll look at the first 2, 3, 4 maybe that are at the top and that they can see, and if they like that, then maybe they'll be interested. But chances are they're not going to go through every single one. No one's got time.
Yeah, exactly. So continuing this CV layout, so we've got our profile, like our introductions. We've got our technical skills. What comes after that?
So next will kind of depend on your personal circumstance. So if you have any kind of experience in a studio, so whether that be an internship or whether that be work experience or any freelance work, anything where you've done, where any kind of experience working in a team, working with a game studio, that would be the next most important thing, and that is more important and should be above your education.
Mm-hmm.
There, with that piece, you want to be fairly detailed, even if it was only a week, of working in the studio.
Okay.
You want to be kind of relatively detailed about what you actually did. Anyone who's had an internship in the games industry, and they are very hard to find. They are very, very competitive.
Yeah.
Anyone who's had one, that you're not just making tea and coffee for 3 months or whatever. You will do the job, whatever the job is. So if you're brought on as an intern environment artist, you'll be doing art in the same way that a graduate would. So you want to tell us exactly what you did. I worked at this studio. I was using these tools. I worked with this team. Tell us exactly what you did. That's probably the next most important thing. Showing any experience you've had in a studio environment.
Okay.
Following that, and if you don't have that, then it would be your education, and that needs to be fairly kind of simple, fairly kind of easy. Once again, easy to read. Your degree will be the top thing. So some people might put things in a backwards chronological order or forwards chronological order, where you've got GCSEs, then A levels, then degree. Put it the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Put your degree is the best, or a master's degree, or whatever is the latest thing you've done. That needs to be at the top. You don't need to be. It can be good to include some modules that you've done, but you don't need to include everything.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Be selective. We all know at uni there'll be some modules which are actually not particularly relevant to actually what you want to do, but it's just other stuff that you have to do.
Yep.
So put ones on there which are particularly relevant. Put grades on there if they're good.
Yep, if they're good. Important part there.
Yeah, for artists it's not as important as it is for maybe programmers.
Yeah.
For programmers, it can be more important because it is a little bit more academic, I suppose, with coding and such. And a lot of studios will be like, you have to have a first, or we're just not interested.
Right.
For art, it's maybe not as strict as that, but you obviously want to do well in your degree, and you want to show that you've done well in your degree. So having good grades on there is good. You don't want then when it comes to A levels or GCSEs. Once again, you don't need to be super detailed.
Okay.
One line saying I got 3 A levels at this, and this is fine. You don't need to go in loads of detail because that was years ago, and actually it's not particularly relevant to what you do right now. It's a really clear, simple table. Following that, and this is the bit where some people miss off as well, and it is actually super important. I would then have any other work experience. So this would be working in a shop or behind a bar or in a cafe or anything like that, which has got nothing to do with game development or art or anything. But actually, this is where you show the soft skills that studios look for. So we've kind of said communication, teamwork, these kinds of things are really important for studios. That they want people who have got these kind of soft skills to work in their studio. And actually, if you put it in a list, you're not telling us anything. So if you're putting, I've got great communication skills. I mean, I don't know that.
That's a great point. Yeah.
You just put it in a list, But actually, if you show examples, so what I mean is, when I was a student, I used to do loads of bar work. I used to work behind the bar at the SU. I'd done loads of bar work, and actually, when on my CV, I wouldn't put all the stuff I did behind the bar. I wouldn't put, I went behind the bar and I poured pints and I managed, and I could do this and I could do that, because they can probably work out what you do behind the bar.
Yeah.
Actually, what you want to do is, I really enjoyed, working as a team and working with people behind a bar. I really enjoyed communicating with customers, building up a rapport and a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Showing that I have those softer skills, using an example of something work related.
Yep.
That's what you want to tailor that to.
Perfect.
Uh, a lot of people miss that bit off
Because
because they think that it's not relevant. But actually, if you tailor it in the right way, it can be relevant.
yeah, no, that's amazing. Oh yes, right, okay. Because I don't know. It's like once again, I always like to relate back to myself because once again, I've made many mistakes through my times. Like I said, it's the only best way for good discussion, and I didn't expect you to say that. Like, I completely agree. Because I did change. Probably about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I started putting in like leadership courses I attended. So I talked about like attending these leadership courses, and believe it or not, I actually just included a wee sentence like what you're saying there about we had to like I had to do orienteering up a mountain, the Cairngorms in Scotland, and basically I talked about like how I used like my team skills to kind of work together because they were better at using maps and etc. You name it, and all these little small stories that you're saying there, super important, and I completely agree because I made the mistake in like my early on for CVs of just saying yes, I'm excellent communicator, but like once you said there, it's like what does that mean? Where's the proof? Like there's no evidence to back it up, and it's the same thing. I think would you agree with LinkedIn as well? So like when it comes to having things displayed on LinkedIn, yes, I know you can select your skills and stuff what you're good at, but once again, maybe have like some sort of evidence. Um,
Yeah.
One last thing I want to ask: what's your thoughts on the experience part for students putting group projects at university? Do you think that's a good one to go with?
Yeah, you wanna show that. So it's the same with portfolios as well.
Mm-hmm.
In that, showing off group projects is great because obviously, you don't work as an individual in a game studio. You work as part of a team, so
Yeah.
that is hugely important. But at the same time, the key thing is you need to be really clear about what you personally did,
Mm-hmm.
because when they're hiring someone, they're not looking to hire the team. They're not
Yeah.
hiring everyone. They're hiring you. So, if it was a team project, and this is where you just need to probably use a bit of common sense and be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
If you only did a very small part of it, maybe that's not the best thing to show off.
Okay.
But actually, if you were very involved and you did a lot of the work and it was really impressive and it really shows in the finished piece, then yeah, definitely shout about it and say that you were, say and say how you worked with other people and collaborated and that kind of thing, because that
Mm-hmm.
is hugely important. But I would just use some common sense with regards to how much importance you put on that compared to maybe individual work that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's no one hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
It is down to the individual, and it's down to actually being honest with yourself and what have you actually done.
Yeah. Of course.
We've seen it before where people will submit an amazing group project, this really polished game that looks amazing, it works amazing, it's great.
Yeah.
But then when you speak to the individual, they're like, yeah, what did you actually do? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I made these two props. That
Yeah.
was my contribution. You're like, well, okay, they're all right, but they're not. You can't really claim the whole game as such because you had a very small part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just using common sense because you will get found out because they
Yeah.
will ask.
Like that. Like that's. I know you've touched on it as well, but so there's one thing that I like to say to everyone, and it's many people have made the mistake of try to claim others' work. Or like they one of the guests that came on the podcast, she's an amazing artist. Somebody literally like I always like to reach out to people before I create their concept. So say if I'm creating a concept in 3D, even though they technically like nobody owns the work, but it's like that level of respect that you want to get across that you know what they've said it's okay for me to make that. So, like for example, my project, I always talk about it just because it's my latest made project. Is my I made this train project. So what did I simply do? I just went right, messaged the guy on ArtStation. Would you be okay for me to create this? And then once again, like you said, there the important part, include his name in the description, their link to the concept as well, and well, actually the most important part is what you did exactly. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you diving into that because
It's the Well, that's the same thing that we bring into Search for a Star,
Yeah.
because um, they there's no we don't say that you have to create your own concept for a
Mm-hmm.
piece. If you want to, you can, or if you want to bring in a concept from elsewhere, you
Mm-hmm.
can. The key thing is if you're going to bring in someone else's work,
Yeah.
someone else's concept, then you have to say that you do. And actually, that's not a bad thing, because once again, in the real world, when you work in a studio,
Yeah.
the chances are you will be working off somebody else's concept. You
Of
won't
course.
be starting from scratch in the vast majority of things. So actually being able to bring in someone else's piece and work off it and then build on it,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good thing to show that you can do that.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
yeah, it's an important thing.
So when it comes to, I guess, finishing off the CV, the more important part, I guess, is one of the many important parts is your reference. So having your references, etc. What's your kind of thoughts on, like, how is so when I started off, I used to use lecturers because obviously I didn't have the experience at the time. Is there anyone you think you should go to for that?
Um, it can be difficult. Yeah, lecture. I mean, it depends. Once again, it depends on your own personal circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never worked in a studio or worked with other artists or anything, then yeah, a lecturer would be the best person. Someone who's seen your work and has seen you do work and seen your process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's good. If you are lucky enough to have done anything with a studio, whether it be a freelance or work experience or internship or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're probably more valuable as a reference, because they're more closely related to the people who are going to be taking the reference. However, one thing to be wary of, I suppose, is that there's no when with reference taking, there's no legal requirement for someone to say to to give you a detailed reference. So actually, the legal requirement is that all they have to do is, if I want to take a reference for you, and
Okay.
I gave me your ex-employer,
Okay.
and I found out, so I want to take a reference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only thing that legally they have to tell me is, yes, he worked for us between this date and this date.
Is that it? Right. Okay. I
That's
did not
legal.
expect that.
So
Right.
if they want, that's all they have to give you.
Okay.
And obviously, what you hope is that you've still got a good relationship with that person, and
Yeah.
they're
Of
going to
course.
go,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, no, he was great. Yeah, he worked with us here to here, but yeah, he was really good. We're really sad to see him go."
Yeah.
You're hoping that, but actually, I wouldn't get I wouldn't get too kind of dependent on having references from industry, because
Yeah.
you might not get very much from it. And actually, at a junior level, they're probably not as important
Right.
as more of a senior level.
So
To be honest.
would you, you being a recruiter, would, if that was something that maybe you say you saw a reference that intrigued you, as in, you know what, that might be either a big name, a big studio or something, is that something you would instantly think, right, I have to look this up, or is that something you're just being, I've got enough proof there, they've shown they can do the work, it's not necessary? Would you say reference is a thing that's now dying out? Do you think that it's coming to a point that we no longer need references at all?
Um, it depends. At a junior level, maybe not so much, because yeah, what are they referencing? You haven't been doing the job that long,
Yeah.
so actually, probably at a junior level, they're more interested in actually your work and what you can do now and what you
Yeah.
did on an art test or your portfolio, or they're more interested in that. When you get more senior, yeah, it will become more important, because there's a certain level of expectation of the person that you're hiring.
Yeah.
If you're hiring a senior artist, for example, yeah, you might be able to see a portfolio, and you might be able to see that I've worked at here for the last 5 years or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. But for that, they will probably want to know more about actually what they like as a person when they're
Yeah.
in the job and that kind of thing. And that, were they on time all the time? Did they take loads of sick days? There'll be more of an input on that. But actually, at a junior level, there's probably not so much focus.
Yeah.
Um, but it can never be a bad thing to have good references.
Of course. Yeah. It can't really harm you.
Yeah, there will be references from studios who will want to check that you are who you say you are,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not so important for
Yeah.
graduates.
Right. So I've got two more questions when it comes to this.
Okay.
It's okay. I know I've been bombarding you. It's trust me, we're just building up, okay, till we get to the main exciting one, and then you're gonna be on the spot. You're like, oh gosh, I'm now on a podcast. We're talking about everything crazy. He's like, what did I sign up to? It's okay, Andy. You'll be fine. But the question I wanted to ask is cover letters still a thing, and should it be a thing?
No, not in my eyes. Some
Why?
people, some people will probably disagree. No one reads them.
Yeah.
No one's
Right.
got time.
Okay. Yeah. When you think about it, it's so true. Like you have like six
No, one,
seconds or whatever.
no one's got time, especially at a junior level.
Yeah.
Um, it is not an exaggeration to say that a studio will get 500 applications for a graduate junior
Yeah.
role. It is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Um, they just simply won't get read.
Okay.
What's more, this is why having your CV well structured is more important.
Mhm.
So all the stuff that you would usually years ago that you would get on a covering letter, which would be this I am, this is who I am, this is where I've been, this is what I want to do, these are my likes, these are my dislikes, this is my
Yeah.
favorite color, this is all this rubbish. Um, having that in a shorter form on your CV, where you're a little bit sharper and a little bit, you can get that information across
Mhm.
is a better way of doing it. So, as I said on the CV, having a kind of short profile intro piece at the top, introducing who you are, where you studied, what you want to do, why you want to do it, and then at the bottom, I would then also have a hobbies and interests piece, which is where you then talk about what your passion is and why why you've ended up going down this path that you're going down, and maybe bring a little bit more meat to the bones
Yeah.
with regards to that. But once again, it's going to be fairly short. It's going to be a paragraph.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an A4 side covering letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't bother. No one reads them.
Thanks for answering that, because that's still, in my eyes, one of the things universities behind. Like, I feel like that's one of the things they still promote, because I think the thing they always base it is just generic, just things in general. Like, they don't base it around art as a whole. Like, art is completely different to your normal jobs.
Exactly. This can be sometimes the problem with institutions is that they'll have a careers department, but they are, if you think about a university, think of all the different courses they do. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to advise people on all sorts of different things, whether
Yeah.
it be art, whether it be computer science, whether it be medicine, whether it be all sorts.
Yeah.
So actually, there's not one hard and fast rule that works for both. That their stuff will be quite generic in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what I've seen, which is really promising, is there's some careers people at universities who are now really working with industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I've spoken to tons over the last few months where they're reaching out and asking, "I want to put something together for the games course or for the art course or
That's
whatever,
great. Yeah.
and have you got any tips?" And we're quite happy to work with universities so that they can share on what we say. Um, but yeah, that's why probably covering letters, because for some industries, I don't know, I haven't worked in them, but for some industries, maybe covering letters are a must-have.
Yeah.
Uh, but not for the games industry.
So, I'm so happy now. No more cover letters. Get rid of them. Throw them away. So, you kind of talked about it there, and as obvious as sounds, I'm pretty sure you've had your fair crazy ones. Uh, do you think students should stick to one page or 2 pages? Because I know 2 pages tends to be like just is the safety one, like two's max. But do you think there's enough just to stick to one page, or do you think you should just stick to two?
Once again, it very much depends on what you've got to put in.
Yeah.
I would say for a student or for a graduate, someone who hasn't got years of experience, years of work experience,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to get everything you need into 2 pages.
Yeah.
If you're going over that, you've probably it's probably not laid out very well, or you've probably repeated yourself or given too much detail in an area that you shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't be too anal about got to keep it on one page.
Okay.
As long as it, especially for artwork, as long as it looks good, the layout is good, as long as it looks like it makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point stressing about getting it all on one page and then cramming everything into a really short, really small font and go, yeah, I've got it all on one page, because
Yeah.
no no one can read it. So yeah, I would probably say you should be able to get everything 2 pages max, but don't stress about it if it's 1 or 2 pages.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that. So before we get into the questions section, is there anything else? I'll just kind of almost gonna put you on the spot. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Maybe in particular grads and games. Is there anything coming up, or is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah, so there's some quite interesting stuff, new stuff that we're doing. So usually we have 2 main initiatives. One would be the Search for a Star competition.
Mm-hmm.
The other is what's called Get in the Game, which is a university tour that we do every year. So last year, over the space of 9 weeks, we went and visited 30 universities around the UK.
Right.
Delivered careers talks, and we took industry partners with us. So generally how it works would be we do our careers talk where we talk about key skills studios look for, how to build a CV, how to build a portfolio. We give examples, and we basically give you everything you need to know. We then also will have industry partners with us, so we'll have maybe 2 or 3 different studio people who will come and do a presentation of their choosing, which could be, could be on whatever they want basically, and then a Q&A piece, and that's what we usually do. And it we did 30 odd last year, and it was a hell of a lot of traveling, but it was great fun, and we get to see maybe 3,000 or so students over the course of the time. Now, obviously this year, that's not going to happen because
of what's going on. Yeah,
what's going on. Being able to cram 100 people into a lecture hall and give a careers talk is not going to happen.
It's
so we've kind of been forced to change what we do, but I think what we're doing is better. So we are doing two different things. Firstly, we are going to build a kind of online video resource area, which is going to be a private area only for students. So the way that'll work is that on the gradsandgames.com website, there'll be an area for students to sign up. And when they sign up, they'll get through to an area where they'll then be on a journey. So we've brought some gamification into it. So what will happen is all the content that we put together will be split up into areas. So there will be one on skills, there'll be one on CV, there'll be one on portfolio, and there'll be different journeys for different job titles. So for artists, for example, which is most important, you will have different things that you will need to watch or do, which will unlock other stuff. So if you can imagine, there'll be a video from my team talking about key skills of a graduate artist and what kind of things we know studios look for, basically taken from the talk that we usually do when we go out to universities. Once you've watched that, what you will then unlock is videos from all of our partner studios, from our hiring managers, art managers, then talking about, actually, this is the key things that I think that I look for when I hire graduate artists. And we are going to have, and the same thing with CVs, and the same thing with portfolios and networking and all these different things. And what you'll have is you'll have a area where you will have tons of video content from both us and from studios themselves, saying, giving you advice of everything you need to know to get into the game industry. There will also be tons of kind of free resources on there where there'll be loads of introductions to studios and them talking about their culture. There'll be other kind of presentations. We're also going to bring in studio people to come in and do deep dives as well. So them it might be I don't know, someone coming in and really talking about one specific piece, and they'll deep dive into that.
Okay.
So we'll bring them and do that, and this is all going to be exclusive just for students that they enter. And basically, if they go through a journey and if they watch certain pieces, they end up with a achievement at the end, which will be you completed the Get in the Game journey. So this will all be completely free, all for students.
Awesome.
We're building it right now, and we're bringing studio partners on right now as well, who will be a part of this. And it's basically going to be kind of a massive resource for students to get all the stuff because they probably won't get many visits from industry this year because of social distancing, etc. So be where they'll be able to get to see all of that. Alongside of that, what we're also doing is a series of live webinars. So October, November, December. We'll be doing. We haven't decided how many yet, but we're going to be doing a series of live webinars. So we will be contacting pretty much every university in the UK and Europe that does something games related.
Yeah, awesome. That's great.
And we will be doing a webinar where we will do a presentation, a studio will do a presentation, and then we'll do a live Q&A as well. All online. They'll be able to see and ask questions in the same way as if we came and did a careers talk. And once again, for that, it's all completely free for students.
Yeah.
No cost of anything at all. It will be all vital information which will help them to get a job. That's the ultimate goal. So that's kind of all the stuff that we're doing this year, which is going to be really exciting and really new. And hopefully what we can be is kind of a kind of main resource that we can provide you content, but then also hopefully a load of studios will be able to get out and get their message out and tell you what they think as well, which as a student can be great, because if you can hear from 10 different art managers saying, well, actually, this is what I look for, or this is what I look for in portfolios, you can get that perspective over 10 different things, 10 different people. That's going to be great, as opposed to having one person come in and talk to you.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's what we're doing this year.
That's incredible. I can't wait to see it all, and congratulations once again with everything you guys are doing. So once again, folks, if you guys have not been listening to the details that we've been talking about, that's gradsandgames.com. Links are in description. Make sure to spam that button as always. Right, Andy, it is time. The pressure is on. I can now bombard you with questions. You should see his face, folks. Right, we're starting off with a fun one because it's my favourite thing. What's your favourite movie and why?
Rocky 4.
Oh, yes! What a legend! I did not expect that to... Right, okay, yes, what a way to start. Okay, good choice.
I mean, it's the ultimate underdog story,
yes.
Isn't it?
Finally, that's probably one of the best answers I've ever... I'm not just saying that, man. That is one of the best answers in the history of like our 90 podcasts. You're definitely... That's like a top 3 answer right there, man.
That's closely followed by Rocky 2, I think. Rocky... I don't know.
Do you not a Rocky 3 fan?
Okay, I wouldn't put it... Probably put it third. I'll go 4, 2, 3, 1.
Okay.
And then 5 and 6, they don't really count.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, definitely.
Good answer. I did not expect that. Hearts on Fire, one of the best songs ever. Oh, such like when he's in like the mountains. Oh, you can't beat it. Drago, you're getting destroyed. But God, what a way to start this. Right, okay. What is one thing you can't live without?
Coffee, probably.
Coffee. I think you're like the 5th person who said coffee out of 90 people. People must love their coffee. I'll tell you that.
It's pretty strong indication of what the industry's like.
Working all the time. No, I understand, man. I completely get it. Mine's always been like my answer for this. So when people try to catch me off guard, mine's the easy option. I just go straight to the computer. I just say I can't live without my computer. And saying that, it makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
I had to ask you this. Favorite rugby team?
Northampton Saints.
All right. Awesome. Nice. Perfect. Okay. If you were to this is one I ask every single guest, or most of my guests. If you were a pro at any video game, what would you choose and why? Is there a game that you would love to be a pro at?
Oh, I don't know.
Mine was always Call of Duty. I've always dived in the world of Call of Duty.
Yeah. See, I'm terrible at Call of Duty. Like, absolutely awful. I'm terrible at all kind of first person shooter games. I don't know why. I'm just terrible at it.
Not your thing.
No, I enjoy playing them. Like I'll play the kind of career modes, if you will, and missions. But if I try and go online, I last all of about 3 seconds.
Right. Okay.
I don't realise. I'm terrible at it. So maybe that'd be good. I suppose Fortnite would be good because there's a shed load of money in winning Fortnite.
Yeah, there certainly is.
So, yeah, that'd be good.
Did you? What was your thoughts? I guess it's crazy. Like, I'm not sure if you saw it when one of the main players actually went on Jimmy. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, and so basically won $3 million for the World Cup.
Yeah, was that a British team?
So the guy, his name was Booga, and basically, you know, their gamer names. It's always crazy. It's always an interesting one. But the only crazy thing though is like they always get them with tax. So it's like it's always like they don't even get half of it. It's like they say 3 million, like they have 3 million marketing everywhere. But it is madness how much money is in games. But it's great as well. I think it's
The it's funny you see with the current lockdown
mhm.
and how much esports has really really taken off in the last 2 or 3 months. I know it was
Yeah,
already going, but the increase in traffic and stuff outside of its main markets has really grown in the last couple of months
yeah,
because there's no live sport on. It's you see like the F1 was probably the biggest one. You've got loads of, I think that's being shown on Sky Sports and stuff.
right, okay,
Uh,
right. Wow, I didn't know that. Right, fair enough.
so yeah, there's definitely that's a huge market to go into in the future. It's definitely
Yeah,
great.
they're just like raking in the money non-stop. Right.
Yeah,
So normally I like to ask this question. It's like the typical who would win in a fight, grizzly versus like the gorilla, etc. But we're gonna spin it around. I'm
okay.
very biased in this question, but who do you want to win in a fight, Godzilla or King Kong?
Oh,
Because the movie's coming out this year. Which side do you think's gonna win it? Who's gonna take the victory there? I'm Team King Kong, but
see, I was first leaning towards King Kong.
okay.
I think probably because I don't know, I kind of have an affinity with like probably looking like a big gorilla myself. Um,
Never won't be that, man. If there's any animal you probably want to be, it's like as strong as a gorilla. You can't go wrong there, dude.
yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I kind of feel King Kong would have it because he's just got like Godzilla. He's got kind of short arms, isn't he? I
Yeah,
think if
I would
that's right.
agree.
Like,
Yeah,
there's no grappling game whatsoever. It's all biting and all
yeah,
tail swishing.
yeah,
Uh, so I feel like the grappling game would go for King Kong. I think you just kind of get him down on the ground and that'd be it.
yeah. You'd be a goner. That's a
Choke on.
great way to answer. Awesome answer. Right, we've got 5 answers. See, this is why I was saying this thing is the most random section. You have no idea what to expect. Like I'm going through your would you rather sections like crazy. It's just like it's hilarious conversations at time. I'll tell you that. Right. This is actually a personal favorite because a lot of people, once again, like I said, always crazy answers. Favorite cartoon as a kid. And if you're struggling, I'll give you 3. If there's any, like, was there a cartoon that you were like, you know what, that was my childhood right there?
Ooh, cartoon.
Or were you a cartoon person, or was that not your thing?
Not not massively. Not massively.
I'll spin it around then. Okay, we'll change it up. If you weren't playing rugby, what other sports would you be playing?
Uh, at school, I did netball. I was really good at netball.
Right, awesome, nice.
I remember being doing GCSE PE. You had to choose, I think it was 4 sports or something to be graded on.
Hmm.
And yeah, I chose netball for some reason. Like there was about three guys who did it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm pretty good at that. I've got pretty good hand-eye coordination and throwing and catching and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
yeah, I reckon I could give that a go. Even though I'm only about 5'7", so I wouldn't be doing much of the shooting and stuff. Somewhere in
right.
the middle.
No, that's cool. I would hate to go up against you at dodgeball. I'd be dodgy like crazy. I am definitely not challenging you at dodgeball, man. It may be a great movie, but I am literally running. So, right, this one is the one that just makes everyone just go like, why? Right, okay. Would you rather have wet socks for the rest of your life, or have to wear a shoe but it's one size too small?
Ooh.
This is the one you're just like, yeah, I don't want any of them.
Yeah, I know they're both horrible. Um,
The stories of wet socks, man. Going through like football pitches after a game or something.
yeah, I think I'd have to go shoes too small. Like they'll stretch. Like
Yeah,
they'll stretch over time,
yeah,
but if they're wet constantly, I mean, you're just gonna get like fungus and stuff like
that's
that.
true. It just reminds me of. It's actually funny how I asked you this. I was actually watching. Do you remember the film Castaway with Tom Hanks?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was watching that the other day, and the guy's feet, his shoes were too small, so he just cuts off the ends so he can
Yeah,
fit his feet in. I guess that's a
exactly.
cheater way around it.
Yeah.
Right. 3 more questions. What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Uh, Pay attention in school better.
Okay. At least you're honest, man. That's the main thing. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Learn how to do something that's learn how to do something that's an actual skill, not just selling and talking and stuff.
Here, dude, talking is my game as well. There's nothing. I can talk my way into anything. I'll talk my way through anything. It goes. I don't like as many times as I say it, but I can't stress enough. Like talking. Like I know a lot of people as artists. Like just speaking of the theme, they tend to be the majority. I know I don't like to say majority in that, but would you agree most of them tend to be quite shy based on your perspective? Like
Yes, I think some. I think it's some. Yeah, there can be. Not so much as there is when it comes to programmers. Programmers are generally a little bit shyer.
okay,
But yeah, there can be sometimes. I don't know if it's just a cultural thing.
yeah,
That's
I think it's got better.
That's going to make me sound super old, but
No, I understand, man. Like it's I've always like that's why I was believe it or not that's the reason I do the podcast in a day. So trying to get people more comfortable, trying to get people to talk etc. It's one of the main things I've always felt is just number one. I don't care how many times I say it, and as long as people can focus on getting more confident at the day, I know I've done my job. Right.
Yeah.
Favorite game
of all time.
Of all time. It's normally I normally ask that first, but I was like, let's just build it up. Let's just leave it to let's make the harder. Let's get the struggle going a wee bit.
It's probably got to be GoldenEye on the N64.
Oh, I've never played it. So many people have said GoldenEye, and I've frustrated so many people. I've not played GoldenEye.
So I went when I was 18, which was back in 2007.
Okay.
I went on I called it a gap year to Australia. I went and lived in Australia for a year.
Nice.
And I was living with 4 other lads. We're all 18. And so it was the PS2 at that point. PS3 didn't exist yet. And we got PS2 and we kind of play around with it. And then the Wii came out that year. So we got the Wii when it first came out.
Nice.
And we got it, and we were like all excited by it. And then one of the guys from a charity shop down the road found an old N64 for like $20. Got GoldenEye, and for the rest of the year we didn't touch the PS2 or the Wii. All we did was play N64, play GoldenEye or Mario Kart. Yeah, and that was it.
Great decisions were made.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong there. Like, I'm actually glad you said Australia because that's where my mum lives. My mum actually lives on that side of the world, and I've been saying it many times. I need to head out there because it's a whole other experience. That's a whole other conversation we could have had as well. But we've talked about so much so far, right? Man, you're not going to believe this, but this is the question I asked you mid-time, and I'm glad you said the penguin. So prepare yourself for this. You don't have any fancy tuxedo backing you up with this question. So, if you could have any animal or mythical creature as a pet that's roughly like the size of a laptop, so it's really small, what would you choose and why? I ask this every single time. We've had the craziest, weirdest. You could choose anything. Like you could even just go, if you like dogs, you can go dogs. But that's the question I always finish the podcast on.
Size of a laptop.
So you could even. So my one that I chose was a great white shark, because imagine having a great white shark in an aquarium, like a really small one. That was my way around it. But you could even have like a fancy creature as well.
True, yeah. Or maybe like you could have like a jumbo insect. So like,
yes, good choice, right? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
What insect would you choose then?
I don't know. So I don't like spiders, so I wouldn't choose that.
The pressure's on.
It is a hard one.
It's always the one question, like you just don't know when it's going to come. But I bet you didn't expect that on today's podcast. It's like, I'm not going to get asked about an animal. Like, what's the chances of that?
See, I think I wouldn't be a mythical thing. It'd be like a spider monkey, because
right, nice.
What I'd want to do is to be able to like use it to get me stuff, because I'm inherently lazy.
Right, okay, perfect. Why not? I like your thinking here.
Yeah, it could just be kind of an extension of you, and just be like, go grab me a beer or something. There's going to be people listening who are into animal rights who are going to hate that answer.
Dude, it's a great answer because I'm sure their arms are like 3 times the length of their limbs are very long. Hence why they're called spider monkeys. Great choice.
That's the best.
You're just like, I did not expect this. What a way to end the podcast. Thank you everyone who's been joining us today for the StudentArtPodcast. As always, make sure to check out Grads and Games. Like I said, links are in the description. As we discussed, reach out to Andy as well. You never know. If that's an option, people can reach out to Andy. Is LinkedIn your best of choice, Andy?
LinkedIn or Twitter. I'll be on LinkedIn, Andy Driver, or on Twitter as Aardvark Andy.
Perfect.
Easy to find.
So as always, folks, I'll make sure to put Andy's contact details for his social media platforms down below. And get involved, take part in these competitions because you never know. They can make such a big difference. They could change your life. Sometimes it just takes one step to get you into the door. So reach out to these people. As always, folks, like I said, the art share is back. So if you guys are wanting to get your artwork showcased on the next podcast, make sure to get them. Submit them in the comment section down below. Smash the like button as always. Make sure to subscribe, and we will see you folks in the next episode. Bye for now.